Where bondage is felt, there itself mukti also will be experienced. If it is in the mind, it is in the mind. If it is in the intelligence, it is in the intelligence. So mind creates it by discontent and desire, possessiveness, ego and the like. Intelligence creates bondage by doubt and confusion. Ignorance is one, doubt is another. So the psycho-intellectual shackles which make us suffer, not feel comfortable, they are called the binding elements. And these elements will have to be freed from. That becomes mukti. So this is a Jivan Mukti Shastra and it is written by Shankara. Shankara himself was an ascetic. Why did he become an ascetic? You mean to say to be an ascetic is a flair or is an option? If you ask me, it's a compulsion, a persuasion for everyone. Right from the beginning, we have two words here, Varna and Ashrama. What? Varna and Ashrama. Both are four. Varna, that is four, and Ashrama, that is also four. The difference between the two is that Varna is something that nature herself has caused, preserves and perpetuates. Whenever a person is born, he has to belong to a certain class. Class means what? I am not referring to jadi or caste. He has to belong to a certain group or a category. Everyone by birth. Just like you have a complexion and a blood group, one particular type of blood you have. In the same manner, the psycho-intellectual divisions of humanity tell us that you have to belong to one of the four categories. Now this is created by nature and we have no option there, that is Varna. What is Ashrama? Ashrama is an option. It is something evolved by our culture, our thinkers right from the ancient times. How do you have to face human life? So human life has got four phases, four stages. So far as the blood group is concerned, we can do nothing about it. But so far as the mind group is concerned, we can do many things about it. So we have to process ourselves through a four-phased program of human life. The first one is devoted to learning. And we devote something like 23 years, 24 years like that. In the ancient times, this education was done in the residence of the teacher. Anybody who feels that I can teach and I want to teach becomes a teacher. A teacher cannot be appointed as we are doing now. See, there are some people given to knowledge and some people want to know in order that they become expert in the task. So when they feel they have got an unusual flair for knowledge, when the knowledge goes on filling their system, an overflow takes place, then they become a teacher. Now such people, what did they do? They opened their doors of their house and said, those children who come here, we would like to teach. So their children, along with the other children, also stayed in the same house and they were learning, they were teaching. The teacher was teaching and the students were learning. Now this learning, because it was a residential life, they would teach something like 6 hours in a day. And for the remaining hours of the day, the students used to spend their time. You know, there was nothing like an evening walk, morning walk. Maybe in the course of life itself it was taking place. Common park and cinemas and all that, nothing was there. So they used to participate actively in the life of the teacher's family. So they would draw water, look after the cows, milk them, wash them, go to the forest, bring firewood, split them, cut them, sweep, wipe, all kinds of human, domestic, residential and attendant activities they were given to. So when the child came back after the Gurukula Vasa, he was not merely an academic student, he was also a practical, interactive individual. This was the advantage. Now, the sacred thread was given to Upavita, and then he was sent to the teacher's home, and then he came back. That coming back was called Samavartana, returning from the Guru's house. Now, there were two options before them. Vedas and Shastras used to be a very important subject or indispensable primary subject of learning. 4 Vedas and 6 Shastras were there. Now in this, as I am talking to you about or on Viveka Chudamani, you will find a very great importance given to the subject knowledge as different from the object knowledge. Am I clear? Knowledge of the object world. Another is knowledge of the subject world, namely mind, intelligence, ego and beyond. And then you will find a number of Upanishads are there which highlight and glorify self-realization, Jivan Mukti and so many other subjects alike. So if some children were very much inspired by the knowledge, they had the option to remain with the Guru forever and participate in the teaching program. Others used to return. Now some of these students could directly become a sannyasin. They are called Naishtika Brahmacharis. Throughout their life they are celibates, and over a period of time they took up sannyasa. Otherwise the students returned and got married and they had a family life. The purpose of married life, what is that? It is Vamsha Vruddhi. The purpose is, when 2 people get married, only 2 can get married between themselves. One is a man, another is a woman. So 2 of them were there. In place of 2, you have another 2 as a contribution to the society, so that the family, the lineage and the society would be perpetuated. So that perpetuation of lineage, this was the object of marriage. It was very clear. Now when the children are born, the first son is called Dharmaputra, the second is called Arthaputra, the third is called Kamaputra. If you have 2 children, well and good, fulfill that role. Suppose you have additional children, it is not necessary. So you are having it because of your own unrestricted indulgence or passion. So it's called a Kamaputra. When the children grow sufficiently well, they have become adults themselves, then the parents should stop, retire from the household life. Because as long as they were a student, they were given to academic learning. When they became a householder, they had to be involved in all household chores, and they did not have time to develop their own inner personality like mind, intelligence and ego. So they retire from the household life and keep away. At one stroke, the entire habits and systems completely change. As a family man, he was very possessive about the children. He was concerned about the welfare of the family, having enough to eat, keeping items a little store, etc. But the moment he becomes an anchorite, say a Vanaprastha, the whole system suddenly changed. I was explaining it from the message Sri Krishna gave to Uddhava. What is Brahmacharya, what is Garhastya, what is Vanaprastha and what is Sannyasa. Every detail was given. And I was trying to link it up with how it is related to the present. Though the whole system has changed, still there are very beautiful elements. You know, the same man who was a householder, suddenly he decides, I am going to be a Vanaprastha. As a Vanaprastha, he is supposed to eat items which are cooked by sun himself. What? A raw fruit ripens because of sunlight, growth, etc. So he should take ripe fruits or even unripe fruit. He can take leaves and flowers. That is everything prepared by nature. And don't keep it for the morrow. No stock. So can you imagine the way of life? This is not a legend that I am telling you. It is a fact, a culture, a way of life our people had adopted, pursued, preserved and perpetuated. Don't think that your mind, many of you are telling me about attachment. I am tired of hearing. Even then, tirelessly I hear. Why should you be attached? I really don't know. All people in this world were born, they lived, and finally what did they do? Huh? You don't like to say? They died and left. So when your children have become adults, why are you very much concerned about them? Have you not brought them up well? If you have brought them up well, as adults, throw them to themselves. I think in this the Western country is much better than we people are. I don't know. Even in the matter of feeding a child, the Indian mothers are notorious. My son will not eat. I have to tell him cock and bull story and take him to the garden, push. What is this? The Western people, right from the age, I don't know how much, 1.5 years or so, they keep the food with a spoon ready on a chair and a table. He is asked to eat. He is told that this is the way you have to do, and the child manages. In our case, it's all different. I was told that little children, they are told, this is the number for calling the police. The moment your father or the mother touches you, immediately dial. The police would come. That is also told them. See, they are made self-sufficient. With this we should understand. When a child has grown and he becomes an adult, why are you interfering in his life? Allow him to have his full innings. Your innings are over. So naturally you keep away. And keep away, have nothing for you. If the wife is prepared to accompany you, take her. Otherwise go alone. This is the Vanaprastha life. If you are able to do it well, this transition is what I want you to understand. You feel your mind's capacity is limited. It is not. It is not. It is a question of option. See, when we people took up sannyasa, what was the flair in us? Not that we did not have anything, we had everything in life. But still we decided we should leave. We should leave. Leaving is not easy. And after leaving, first of all, whatever income and profession we had, we suddenly terminated, resign it and come away. So the income is blocked. Then our relationship with blood people, etc., blood relationship, that is also kept away. Then what is it that we are going to live by? Nothing. What is going to sustain the earth and the other heavenly bodies in the sky? That power is going to support earth's denizen, earth's child as I am. This is the conviction, or this is the faith, or this is the understanding. With this understanding, we simply walk away, stand on the street with nothing. What do you think of the mind? Why don't you think that at least a few people are like that? And with all the resources at your command, lifelong pension also, still you have a feeling. What is this? Are we meant only for that? I openly tell all of you, you are going to die half humans. What? Why don't you say that? Half humans. The better part of human life is denied for you. Denied for you. It is a 4-stage life for everyone. This is cultured here, cultivated here, evolved here, preserved here, tried and tested here, perfected here, and given to you in the form of a legacy. The 4 varnas, nature born. The 4 ashramas, man born. And then sannyasa. About sannyasa, what I have to tell you is that only in the ascetic order of life, sannyasa, the human qualities flower forth maximum and best. As a householder, your qualities will not shine. You can tell me privately, are you happy with your husband and wife? I believe everyone is restricting the other. you will not have freedom. Your children will restrict you. Whatever qualities you have, they will not be allowed to shine. When you become a sannyasin, all of them begin to shine to the maximum. Because there is a traditional proverb in our language. The moment you tie the Mangalya Sutra on the neck of a girl, it is said you are tying it on the neck, but your legs are tied by that. That means you cannot go away with freedom, you have to look after her. And when a child is born, the mouth also is shut. You don't know how the child will be, how he will behave, how he will talk. In Trichy, there was a college. There used to be a time in 1950s, so many strikes and so many things were taking place. So the college authorities rang up the superintendent of police, there is a strike, please come. So the superintendent and the others came. After some time, the superintendent coolly disappeared. You know why? His son was standing in the front. Now, when a child is born, your mouth is shut. You don't know how he will speak. So, don't think that household life is a good life. It is all right. It is a necessary. It is a necessary evil, you can say. When household is properly led, it becomes even greater than sannyasa. That proper leading is something entirely different. Bhuta rakshejya. The householder should take up the responsibility of looking after the welfare of all creatures in this world. All the creatures. It's not enough if you eat for yourself. Every day if you eat and cook for yourself, you are considered to be a sinful person. There are so many others lesser blessed and needy in this world. When you sumptuously have a meal or have a sumptuous meal, are you thinking about others who do not have it? As long as this reflection is not there, societal reflection is not there, you are not a glorified householder. Certainly not. So there are a number of constraints we have in the household life. The moment you become a sannyasin, you become free. As a householder, if you start speaking good or well of some others, the house members will not like. In Bombay, a man came, Swamiji, what can I say? Whenever I meet people, and there will be men and women, I don't have the freedom. I may see a good woman, but I cannot say this to my wife, he says. I have met a good woman. That statement cannot be made. He is supposed to conceal it, he says. So a lot of freedom is denied. So what you should do is, you should experience what is this sannyasa life. Your qualities go on shining more and more. You yourself will be surprised. Such a great life is the life of sannyasa. And this is a four-phased program. Brahmacharya, Garhastya. In the same manner you took to learning. In the same manner you took to married life. The same manner you should take to renunciation also. It is just like retirement from the office. So you retire from the household. Adopt the third stage of life. If you are successful, enter into the fourth life. And most people have done the best of eternal literature as sannyasins in our country. It's not a simple life. So this varna and ashrama. Then there is another set of four. You know what is that? Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. The whole of Hindu Dharma or Hinduist way of life, I can summarize them in these 12 words. Dharma means the standard or the canons of righteousness. In whatever you do, in your speech, in your thought, in your action, in your behavior, in your interaction, in everything, you have to be adorable, esteemed. You have to be refined. You have to be ethical. You have to be a model. You have to be unharming, non-interfering. Now there is something called righteous way of life. That righteousness is the first and last consideration for human life and activity and interaction. Now this is the first Purushartha. Being righteous, are you supposed to be idle? No. Make use of the hands and feet, the tongue, the brain, and the other organs which nature has given you, which the parents have gifted you with a body, they have brought you up. So making use of all your external and internal resources, or gross and subtle resources, find your field, find your place in life, make your efforts and earn whatever income you want. It can be by trade, it can be by agriculture, it can be by so many other jobs, administration, corporate life, etc. Whatever it may be. Don't depend upon your father or mother. They have given you a body, they have educated you. Say goodbye to them. Don't help me anything more. I am going to have my own life. So go and have your mark in this world. Earn your own wealth. This is called Artha. To use the wealth given to you by the father, patrimony, and worst of all, matrimony. If you are looking for matrimony, what is this? Then what is your hand for? What are your hands for? So earn your own wealth, and after earning it, spend it discreetly to gratify and fulfill your desires. That is called the third Purushartha, Kama. Dharma, Artha and Kama. And by the time you reach 40, 45, you must have sufficient maturity and refinement. Sufficient maturity and refinement. To say that I have had a very good life of education, I had a good professional life, I have earned enough money, looked after my family well, my own desires are fulfilled, completely fulfilled, I have become free. Now by the three Purusharthas, you should attain a state of freedom. Dharma, Artha and Kama. And you are ready for moksha, sannyasa. So the 4 Varnas, 4 Ashramas and 4 Purusharthas, all these 12 together completely give you a prescription, a full prescription. It lays down very clearly what is our Hindu Dharma. You have anything to say? Huh? Don't tell me or don't tell anybody, I don't know what is my Dharma. These are your Dharmas. You are supposed to accomplish this. And many are not able to. That's the difference. The ideal is chalked out, the methodology is chalked out. It is completely experimentable. And you can go to any level of excellence. In a brahmachari's life, you can be excellent. In a householder life, you can be excellent. In a vanaprastha life, you can be excellent. As a sannyasin also, you can be excellent. Why I mentioned this? Shankara speaks about sannyasa quite a lot here. I don't know about whether you know about Shankara's life. He was a prodigy, no doubt. One day he asked his father, Father, you told me something about Brahmajnana. A man who attains Brahman alone fulfills life, his life. Brahmavid apnoti param. What is that Brahman whose knowledge gives you fulfillment of life and the supreme glory of human life? I would like to know. So the father said, I don't think I will be able to explain this to you. As far as I know, there is only one person living on the banks of Narmada, Govinda Pada. He is the only person who can enlighten you in this matter, he said. And within a matter of days, the father died. Shankara was immensely inspired and also compelled by what the father said. When the father had said there is only one person to enlighten you, whom you can seek for clarity in this, he started walking all the way from Kerala to the Narmada bank, met Govinda Pada. He normally must have had his spiritual initiation Diksha from him. And then Govinda Pada said, my dear son, you seem to be exceptionally bright and you have been enlightened. You have become a Jivan Mukta. This is the glory of Brahmajnana. Jnana is the highest attainment in human life. Everything else is inferior. But during the past 1300 years, this Brahmajnana, the Upanishads, the Brahma Vidya, it has been eclipsed here by virtue of the turbulent Buddhistic wave. The whole thing is practically dying. Everything is eaten by white ants. Now, can you do something to reinstitute this Brahma Vidya, to bring it back to its own prestigious glory, pristine glory? Can you do something about it? So he responded to it and started walking throughout the length and breadth of the country. At that time, it was not public lectures as I am giving or others are giving. There was nothing like a public lecture program. So he used to hunt. There were scholarly people, people whom the society respected, leaders of different systems of thought and philosophy.